You know the mask. You've heard the cold, mechanical sound.
And Inquisitor means nothing. Kenobi is all that matters now. Is that understood?
But what's really beneath Darth Vader's helmet? It's not just style, it's survival, fear, and tragedy fused together. Today, we're cracking open the dark mind of Vader, one eerie circuit at a time. Let's rewind for a second, because underneath all that armor is Anakin Skywalker, the Jedi turned Sith who lost pretty much everything, including his body during that fiery duel on Mustafar with Obi-Wan Kenobi. After being left in a perilous state and badly burned, Anakin was reconstructed into Darth Vader, piece by piece, through an intense surgery. We did see that part in Revenge of the Sith. But what about the parts of the suit the movies didn't really explain? According to Star Wars Legends, Vader's helmet wasn't just a sci-fi bucket. Its design was actually inspired by ancient Sith war gear. The helmet was crafted from a mix of materials like durasteel, obsidian, and something called plasteel, with a distinctive ridge that ran from between his eyes all the way down the back of his skull. And here's where it gets even darker, literally and metaphorically. Rumor has it that the helmet was reinforced using dark side alchemy. Wait, what even is dark side alchemy? Can you just pour evil into a helmet and make it stronger? Apparently, yes. But if you think the outside of Vader's helmet is intense, wait till you hear what's going on inside. Perhaps the most brutal detail was that inside that infamous mask, there were actual needles that pierced into Vader's face, as in jabbed right into his skin every time he suited up. But were those needles really just there to cause pain? You see, they actually connected with his flesh and transmitted brainwave activity directly to the central computer on his chest. Let that sink in. His thoughts were being monitored and processed by a machine strapped to him 24/7. And while we're on the topic of high-tech horror, there were radar conduction pads tucked into that helmet that helped bleed off excess heat. Think about that. This guy was literally overheating from just existing inside that mechanical body. The helmet had to have built-in cooling just to keep him from cooking like a baked potato. What's more terrifying than needing a machine to keep you from burning alive in your own skin? When it comes to the design, the top of Vader's mask had this circular silver disc surrounded by square slots, which acted as an interface between the mask and the helmet. That all connected to a flat backpack that constantly cycled air to his lungs. If that airflow ever stopped, game over. And let's not forget the voice. You know that deep, booming, robotic growl that makes people freeze in fear? Yeah, that's not just James Earl Jones's voice magic, it's in-universe tech too. Vader's vocal cords were so badly burned that he couldn't speak on his own anymore. So his helmet had an enunciator implanted that worked with an electronic voice processor to give him that voice. No wonder he sounded like a breathing death machine.
Set a course, Captain. We leave for Jabim at once.
And just when you thought needles in the face and baked potato body heat were the worst of it, turns out Vader's helmet isn't just a torture device, it's a full-blown life support command center. Here's where it gets even cooler. That cold silver piece served one purpose: survival in an environment as hostile as the man inside the suit. It could detect radiation, changes in temperature, and even toxic air quality. Meanwhile, the red lenses he peered through weren't merely for show. They acted as advanced visual filters, allowing him to see in both infrared and ultraviolet. And to top it off, his helmet featured a heads-up display, feeding him real-time data about his environment. But here's the mind-blowing part. Vader could control many of these features with a simple flick of his tongue. Inside his mask, a small control pad near Vader's mouth responded to the flick of his tongue, giving him control over his suit's systems. Remember the harmonica-like device in Return of the Jedi? It was part of that very function. Next, you have the gaiter around his neck that did more than provide support. It housed his nutrient feeding tube and helped project the iconic chilling voice we all know. And as for his hearing, it was almost otherworldly. His helmet, packed with sophisticated audio sensors, gave him an unnerving ability to perceive sound from impossible distances, turning him into a near-perfect predator who could hear every whisper of the galaxy and answer with the cold mechanical precision only a machine could produce. But while Vader's helmet was clearly packed with high-tech survival tools, what if it's been hiding an even darker secret, one that goes beyond just keeping him alive? For decades, we've all assumed Darth Vader's helmet was simply a life support system with a terrifying aesthetic. But now, decades after Vader first stepped onto the screen in 1977, the Acolyte dropped a force-shattering bombshell. Sith helmets may serve an even deeper, more psychological purpose. So what changed? Let's rewind to the Acolyte Episode 5, Night. When Jeki slices off the helmet of the mysterious villain known as the Stranger, also known as Chimere, his face isn't the only thing that's exposed. For the first time, it becomes painfully clear that these helmets do something way more sinister. They block the Force. Yes, that means Vader's helmet may not have just kept him alive, it might have kept others out of his head. Suddenly, those intense, silent standoffs make a lot more sense. Think about it, what if Vader's cold, unreadable exterior wasn't just a result of robotic breathing and a metal mask? What if it was a shield against the Force itself, a way to lock away his deepest fears, his pain, his regrets, and most dangerously, his lingering attachment to Anakin Skywalker? When Master Soul demands that the Stranger take off his helmet mid-duel, he hesitates, and then he delivers the chilling line, "You want to see my face, but this protects you from what's inside." Let's be real, if there's anyone who would have benefited from psychic protection, it's Vader. After all, the guy had a galaxy of trauma locked inside. Anakin Skywalker's pain, grief, rage, regret, and the faintest ember of hope that one day he might still come back from the dark. If Jedi could read even a sliver of that, they might have found a crack in his armor. Literally and figuratively. So maybe, just maybe, Palpatine had his mask designed not only to keep him breathing, but to keep him emotionally locked down. Now, you would think Chimere's helmet was only protecting his mind, but you'd be wrong. It was actually built to defend his body too, creating an impenetrable fortress on every level. It's made of cortosis, a rare material that can short out lightsabers. That means not only can you not read his mind, but if you swing at his head, your lightsaber might just fizzle out. Imagine the sheer panic a Jedi would feel in that moment. And yet, Chimere is still a bit of a mystery. We don't know how far along he is in his Sith journey. He's not a Darth yet. He's not dishing out grand speeches or choking people from across the room. So if he already has tech that impressive, what does that say about the armor of fully realized Sith Lords? Now, as we peel back the layers of Darth Vader's psychological armor, it's worth asking, what happens when the mask comes off? Let's look at the fateful moment when Darth Vader's true face is revealed, and the terrifying humanity lurking beneath the mask is exposed for the first time. One of the most haunting and emotional moments in all of Star Wars history comes in Return of the Jedi, the final showdown. Here's the twist that really hit home. We actually saw Darth Vader's full face, and not just for a quick second or in some distant flashback. This was the real, raw moment. Helmet off, mask gone, everything exposed. Think about it. For so many years, Darth Vader was this mysterious, deep-voiced villain in a black mask, breathing like a terrifying robot. Nobody really knew what he looked like under all that armor. Remember when Luke, with tears in his eyes, looks at his father and gently removes the helmet? That was huge. Suddenly, this towering symbol of fear and power becomes human. You almost forget for a second that this is the same guy who force-choked half the galaxy. And how about the timing of it all? Just as he turns back to the light side, finally choosing love and family over darkness, he passes away, right after seeing his son's face. maybe for the first time ever. Is that not one of the most bittersweet moments in film history? The moment Vader's face is exposed marks a powerful shift, but when it comes to his survival, it's not the helmet that matters. It's the respirator that truly keeps him alive. Let's clear something up right now. Yes, Darth Vader can survive without his helmet, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. The real deal breaker here is his respirator. That thing is non-negotiable. If it's not working, he's not breathing. So what gives? We've all seen Vader whip off the helmet a couple of times, most memorably with Luke in Return of the Jedi, and still be alive long enough to have a heartfelt father-son moment. So how does he manage to stay alive when the very thing keeping him breathing is gone? You see, Vader's helmet goes beyond its menacing appearance. It's loaded with tech, voice modulator, red-tinted lenses, internal data displays. It's basically a whole mini-computer strapped to his head. But the MVP in that whole setup is the respirator. After the brutal duel on Mustafar, Anakin's body was shattered. His lungs, along with several other vital organs, were left in ruins, forever altered by the lava's inferno. Breathing on his own was not an option, so the respirator became his literal lifeline. Now, here's the thing. There are moments in Star Wars lore where Vader's helmet is damaged and yet he keeps going. Ever wonder how Vader could keep going after the most brutal hits? A lightsaber to the face, half his helmet gone, and yet he stays on his feet, relentless and unstoppable. What's keeping him alive? The answer lies in the fact that the respirator is still intact. It's kind of amazing and terrifying how durable that thing is. And get this, Vader even chose to take off his helmet sometimes, like in the Darth Vader comics. But he didn't do it out in the open, he did it in his meditation chamber. That chamber was specially built to let him breathe without his helmet or respirator for short periods. Here's something to chew on. Did you ever think about what it must have felt like for Anakin to live like that for years? Every breath he took wasn't his own. It came from a machine. He could barely survive without his armor, and yet deep down, he was still Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One. Born of the Force, destined to bring balance, and yet completely trapped inside this walking prison of metal and pain. Of course, that prison wasn't just a consequence of his injuries. It was a sentence crafted by Palpatine to keep him alive, obedient, and suffering. Vader's suit became an unshakable crutch. It held him together, a constant reminder of the man he had lost and the monster he had become. Sure, without it the guy would have been toast, but this wasn't some freak accident. It was actually a huge design flaw that made Vader incredibly vulnerable to those who knew how to exploit it. Can you guess who would be the first person to figure this out? That's right, Palpatine. Palpatine wasn't just the Emperor. He was also the ultimate puppet master, pulling strings behind the scenes. And what's even more alarming is that Palpatine had a failsafe. He could shut down Vader's entire suit with a push of a button. Imagine being Darth Vader, knowing you're walking around with all this power, but at any moment, you could lose it all. That's what made his eventual demise so tragic. When Vader decided to betray Palpatine and throw him into the new Death Star's reactor, he was already being zapped by Palpatine's lightning. And guess what happened? The lightning short-circuited the respirator and pretty much every other life support function in Vader's suit. In that moment, the very thing that kept him alive for so long turned on him and led to his downfall. So what part about Darth Vader's helmet do you find the most fascinating and why? Comment down below, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more.